Hey, welcome back, it's Joanna. Now, if you don't know anything about me, welcome, hi, my name's Joanna. I used to be a primary school teacher. I have quit, I've got another video about that, you can find out more, but at the moment I am a first-time mummy to a 9-month-old boy called Harris. Because I've trained to be a teacher and I've worked with kids for loads of years, I've done loads of different jobs with kids and like teaching and volunteering. I used to be a children's entertainer, and then when I was at university I moved into teaching RSHE for a national charity, and then I got into teaching. But teaching as a full-time career just wasn't for me. And at the moment I'm at home on maternity leave. Oh, it's raining outside, that was torrential. I'm on maternity leave with my 9-month-old boy. There are a few things that teaching and working with kids has taught me that I'm bringing into parenthood. And I want to talk about these today. There are 4 things, there are actually loads of things to be honest, but I picked 4 things that I thought were a nice start into talking about why being a teacher has been useful for me being a mum. And these 4 things that being a teacher has given me, I've shared them with Luke, which is Harris's dad, and we both just sort of bringing him up in this way together. First of all, there's a lot of singing in this house. Yes, I mean there are lots of nursery rhymes, but there's also a lot of made up, gibberish, sing-songy fun times, okay? Now, when I say this, I mean right, move over, Miss Rachel. You got Miss Stewart here, yeah. For example, we'll be leaving the house and getting in the car and I'll be like, we're going in the car, we're going in the car, we're gonna have a lovely time. Really cringy stuff. The way that I sing these songs just narrates what we're gonna do. This is really beneficial for a few reasons. It gives him an understanding of what's happening, especially if you were to incorporate these into routines like nap time, bedtime, but also means that they feel safe and they know what's gonna come, so that they can then start to feel in control. Singing songs is really beneficial because it helps with their speech, vocabulary, understanding of rhythm and melody. Now this is really important because when a child learns to speak, they don't just learn a few words as you might think, they basically learn speech through melody. Like a word is a pattern, it's like a rhythm, it's like you go up and down, and that's how they learn, is not particularly through one word. They're learning all of these sounds and they're learning the way that their voice and their sounds move together to make words and phrases and sentences. So singing songs is really helpful for language and speech development. Singing songs is also really helpful because it triggers different parts of the brain that speech doesn't necessarily just trigger. It's incorporating loads of different parts of the brain to all work together. There are so many benefits, I honestly, I don't have scope to go into all of them in this video. Number 2, rights respecting. Now, when I was learning to teach, all they would bang on about is UNCRC, UN Convention of Human Rights for Children, right, you get it. Basically 50 or so rights that every child has. Things like the right to have food, the right to have water, the right to play, the right to education, the right to not be bullied. A lot of schools, at least in Scotland where I trained to teach, you would have rights respecting schools. It's basically someone would take a lead to be the rights respecting advocate, and they would try and teach the school and the teachers and the pupils and reinforce that they all have rights, and that basically if you were to say interrupt lessons, you're taking away someone's right to education. But it's also really important because it empowers the children to be like, okay, no, I've got a right to play, I've got a right to have fun, I've got a right to learn. It basically kind of builds children up from a young age to be like, actually no, I have rights, I've got control, I've got power, and I'm here for a reason. I'm not here just because I'm told to be. My baby is obviously a baby, he's a human, he's not an adult, he still has human rights. He cannot express himself, he cannot protect himself. So it's my job as his mum to look out and meet his needs and give him everything that he needs, right? What a lot of people, I personally feel, don't recognise is that babies are humans who have feelings, and the difference between a baby and a child is that a child can articulate what they feel, all their fears, all their worries. A baby cannot. So a lot of people are like, the baby's crying, leave the baby to cry, babies cry all the time. Personally, Harris doesn't ever really cry that much because not because I over coddle him or whatever. I meet his needs, okay? I communicate with him, I think, very well for a 9-month-old. I don't see the point in him crying, because if he's crying then there's something that's bothering him. He has a lot of feelings and he cannot communicate them. That's why babies cry, because they don't know how to communicate. So I approach parenthood with basically saying, yes, you're a baby, but you have rights, you are respected, and you have a place in this house. Your emotions have a place in this conversation. I'm not just going to leave you to cry. You're not a nuisance to me. You're not, I would never tell you to shut up. I would never tell you to go away, because that's not respecting that right of that human. A lot of people even think about children that, you know, tell that child to shut up, or, you know, don't listen to him, he's being a child, right? That child, you know, what's the difference between a child and an adult? Is it brain development? Is that why? Well, adults, their brains don't fully develop until they're like 25, 26 years old. So would you then only assign human rights to like a 25, 26-year-old? No, that's silly. Sorry, there's a tractor going outside. We live on a very busy street. Everyone who has human rights, everyone has a voice that needs to be heard, even if that voice cannot communicate particularly efficiently. An application of respecting a child's rights is giving them a voice in what they learn about. So in Scotland, there's a very flexible curriculum where it's not prescriptive. In England, it's a little bit more prescriptive. In Scotland, as long as you meet the E's and O's, that like benchmarks, you have benchmarks and expectations and outcomes that you need to meet as a teacher. We're going to learn about the Egyptians this term. These are the areas that we're going to cover. What would you like to know about them? I want him to be able to tell me what he's interested in, and I'm going to do my darndest to explore all of his interests as much as possible with him. So number 3, we go to the library all the time. Now, the library is a free resource. You pay for it in your council tax. You pay for it, right? It is free to go and get books out. You can get like 10 books out at a time. Reading and exposure, even like flicking through pages, even if they can't read, even just the skill of looking at pictures and imagining things and learning to read and looking at different types of books, it's amazing and is so important for literacy development, for creativity development, for even for motor skills as a baby, to try and flick through pages. So important. If you were to buy books all of the time, it's expensive, it's not good for the environment, you know, you're putting a demand out there for cardboard and paper and ink. If you can reuse things and buy secondhand as much as possible, not only is it cheaper for you, better for the environment, you also don't have to store them. I don't need to build a massive bookcase of books he'll never read again. We go to the library at least once a week. We pick about 3 to 5 books out, and we read those like once or twice over the course of the week. We always get different types of books as well. So this week we got a board book, and this has got a little like racetrack car. It's really good for his fine motor skills to be able to try and move the car along the racetrack, because it also talks about keywords of a car. That is definitely a bit advanced for him, but to be able to talk about, you know, a car says beep beep and the car goes on the road. These are all really good keywords that build up context for what it is to be a car, what a car is, what the colours are, so that it basically is making a little folder in his brain under car. What does a car do? A car drives you places, it says beep beep. These are all contextual words that build up his vocabulary when it comes to describing cars. Books are also really important because they build up the understanding of the world. So like I said about cars, that's a folder in his mind of what transport is. It's also really good for his imagination as well, to be able to look at books and look at the pictures and think, what on earth is that? And last but not least, and I think probably the most important one out of all of these, number 4, play. Play basically develops so many skills. There are loads of different types of play, and they all develop different things. So a few different types of areas of development that play will develop. Cognitive development, so learning about spatial awareness, which is basically a kind of maths, learning about the order of things, logic, learn about critical thinking, decision making, problem solving. These are all things that for things like independent play are amazing for. To be able to do something like build blocks on top of each other, that's learning all about physics, like what happens when things fall down, what happens if you build things up. This is something that you can do together and independently. There's a theorist called Vygotsky who basically said that learning is basically something that you can do with other people. It's a very sociable thing. So as a mum or a teacher, you can basically teach people things by modelling, which is showing them, and scaffolding, which is helping them. So something like building like block towers, I can show him what I do with the towers and like what is the result. I can also show him cause and effect by knocking it down, saying, whoa! And in a few weeks, when Harris is old enough to do that himself, he will sit there and he will independently try and put bricks on top of each other, just like I did. This also develops his physical skills. Play is great for this. Outdoor play, rough play, sensory play. It all develops his motor skills. So that's like his gross motor skills, which is basically like walking, moving, just like using his body. And then you have fine motor skills, which is like using specific parts of his body to do specific jobs. There are loads of different benefits in terms of social and emotional development to be able to basically build up resilience. So back to the brick analogy, if you're building blocks and the blocks fall down, that can be quite upsetting, and your child will over time learn to be resilient to that. If my tower's knocked down, I can build it back up and everything's okay. That's basically all of toddlerhood, is learning resilience. They learn through exploring social and emotional boundaries through play. So you'll often see like toddlers and little kids and doing like a lot of role play. So that's why if you go to like into a reception class, they'll all be in the play corner pretending to be mum, pretending to be dad, pretending to be a doctor. What is it like to be mummy? What's it like to be daddy? They'll also learn to be creative. So if you leave a child to do independent play, give them a few resources like some paint and paper and just see what they come up with. They also learn a lot of language through play. And if you're building up towers, you can describe it to them or get them to describe it so that you can see what words they're using. Okay, we're using bricks, or we're using cubes, we're stacking, we're placing. Oh, it's fallen down. These are all great words that are attached together in a context to be able to build up different sentences. And those sentences will really tell you a lot about their vocabulary. Play is also really important, even down to emotional regulation, to be able to have like a form of stress relief. So like rough play can be really important, particularly when it's like a child and their dad. They release so much oxytocin. Play is a really, really multifaceted type of thing that your child will do. And even if you look at other animals, you'll see like tiger cubs fighting each other. They'll be biting mum and dad, rolling around, and what they're doing is they're learning all their motor skills. They're also learning so much about like relationships between the tribe, between mum and dad. So if there's one thing that you take away from this video, is play with your child and get them to be playing on their own and playing with everything and anything. And let me tell you, they always want to play with the things that you don't want them to play with. So this is often because they see you playing with like the TV remote, or they see you on your phone. They would definitely opt for your phone over a toy. Not because it's a phone, but because they see you doing it. So that's also something to be wary of, is to be mindful about what your child is seeing you do, because they pick up on everything. And I hope that these tips have been really helpful for you, whether you're a parent, a teacher, you're just interested, as to how you can basically try and like parent your child, or even teach kids in a really fun, friendly, playful way. If you like this video, found it useful, please do give it a like. On that note, please do hit the subscribe button, it really helps my channel. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye bye.